Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and her fiancé Riley Roberts have been engaged since 2022, but their story actually began long before AOC stepped into the political spotlight. They first met over a decade ago, while studying at Boston University, and no, it wasn't some dramatic meet-cute. It was more like true nerdy fashion, as AOC herself put it. The two would show up to coffee and conversations, a weekly student town hall where people discussed everything from the war in Afghanistan to the latest in pop culture. And guess what? Riley wasn't just some quiet guy in the back. According to AOC's college friend Eric Baker, Riley was the one stirring the pot on purpose. He'd throw out a provocative opinion just to get people thinking. Baker described him as probably smarter than anyone you've ever met, and someone who thrived on intellectual debate. Sounds intense. Well, apparently AOC loved that energy. It's ambitious, but after college they split up. He moved back to Arizona, and she stayed on the East Coast. It seemed like that. Chapter had closed until around 2:15 when they reconnected. AOC's mom spilled to the Daily Mail that the couple found their way back to each other, and eventually Riley moved to New York, working remotely from their apartment in the Bronx. The time 2022 rolled around. AOC wasn't just a rising star, she was a full-blown political powerhouse. You know, sometimes you're an underdog until you're not, and that's when Riley decided to propose. But here's the twist. AOC wasn't immediately sold on the ideas. He actually told him he'd have to woo her. Honestly, I love that energy. Alexandria admitted she needed to be convinced, especially after how much their lives had changed. But in the end, she saw something rare. Riley wasn't threatened by her success. In fact, he celebrated it. They got engaged in April 2022 while visiting her family's hometown in Puerto Rico, and yes, Alexandria confirmed the news on X, saying, "No future details yet. We're taking some space to savor this time before diving into planning." So who is Riley Roberts? Well, for starters, he's originally from Arizona and studied sociology and finance at BU after graduation. He helped small businesses build websites and worked in UX growth consulting. He's also used those skills to support AOC behind the scenes, especially during her early campaign. She's the kind of guy who prefers staying out of the spotlight. And if you've ever wondered why, you barely see him on our socials now. You know, I do get nervous when I post, not as often as I used to, despite their long history. The couple prefers to keep things low-key. In fact, one of AOC's college friends admitted she didn't even realize they were dating. Until years later, Riley rarely shows up on her socials and at public events. People sometimes mistake him for a campaign volunteer instead of her fiancé. But make no mistake, he's a huge part of AOC's support system. Her mom adores Riley, calling him loving and supportive and saying he was a massive help during the election. And those close to AOC say he's her grounding force, someone who walks her to work, keeps her company late at the office, and even serves as her unofficial bodyguard. That's real-life Rom. Calm-level commitment. Americans aren't asking for a lot, they're just asking for politicians to help them get by. "I can do this, I know. You can." AOC has said that. Unlike some of the men she dated in the past, Riley didn't freak out when she stepped into her power. Instead, he leaned in. She told GQ he's been deeply engaging and that he's not just watching her journey, he's in it with her, using their experiences as opportunities to grow in many ways. That kind of connection reflects another strong political partnership. The bond between Alexandria's closest ally, Senator Bernie Sanders, and his wife Jane has worked with Mesh, has not only been a wife but a colleague for many, many years. Their story began in the 80s. Bernie was mayor of Burlington, and Jane was already juggling activism and motherhood. They married in 1988, and from that point on, Jane has been by Bernie's side through it. All campaigns, Senate battles, and even a Soviet honeymoon. Jane was born in Brooklyn in 1950, and her early years were anything but easy. After her dad had an accident when she was 2, Bahari became a taxi driver. Her mom went to secretarial school at night, and her brothers left school to help out. So yeah, Jane grew up tough, resourceful, and fiercely independent. I mean, if we had money when I was 2.5, you would have been home in her early 20s. Jane married her high school sweetheart, David Driscoll, and the two eventually moved to Vermont. That marriage didn't last. They divorced in 1980, but it brought her 3 kids. Heather, Karina, and David. When Bernie entered her life, he didn't just become her partner, he became a father figure to her kids too. And later, when her ex-husband passed away, Bernie formally adopted them. The two even fostered 13 children together. Yep, 13. She had been a foster parent. How many foster kids? Did you have 13 or 13 over time, to mention her own 3 kids? And she got me thinking whole lot about the needs of children and youth. Their first meeting, not your typical rom-com. Jane saw Bernie at a mayoral debate and said she fell in love with his ideas before the man himself. I sat in the second row and I fell in love with Bernie's ideas. Jane told people we met eyes a few times, which I thought was interesting. He spoke and it was unbelievable. She just felt that he embodied everything I believed, and I was on board. So sparks flew, and a few weeks later, Bernie asked her to dance. That was it, until it wasn't. They actually broke up for about a year, because she wanted marriage, and he wasn't so sure. But even then, he kept showing up for her and her kids. That steady presence in their lives ended up winning her over. Eventually, Bernie proposed not with flowers or fireworks, but by taking her by the shoulders and simply asking, and she said yes. They got married on May 28th, 1988 at Burlington's North Beach. So this is the wedding, and my daughters were my bridesmaids, and Davy walked me down the aisle. I was calm and happy, and content and excited for the future. They didn't go for a glamorous honeymoon, either. Nope, they headed to the Soviet Union not as tourists, but to help establish a sister city connection between Burlington and Yaroslavl. Practical and political classic. Bernie and Jane. He's very authentic. Before all this, Jane had already built a meaningful career. She studied social work, earned her doctorate in leadership studies, and worked with the police department's juvenile division, volunteered with the Marine Corps, and helped young people through community programs. She's done everything from bank teller to college. President, seriously, is there anything she hasn't done? They said you need a PhD. You need to continue to do this work. Let us help you get that. So I went back and I got my PhD at 50. And she's not just Bernie's biggest cheerleader. She's been deeply involved in his work over the years. She's taken on multiple roles, from chief of staff and policy advisor to press liaison and media buyer. According to reports, she even helped draft more than 50 pieces of legislation. When Bernie says he has a tight-knit team, he really means it. What people don't understand is that's what he's always done. He's laid out a vision that was a lot more progressive and a lot more bold than people thought could be accomplished. And then he's accomplished it. That said, Jane wasn't exactly thrilled. When Bernie first floated the idea of running for president, her first reaction, you really want to spend your time defending every little thing we've ever said or done? Fair point, right? Ego and arrogance is not Bernie's go-to place. I mean, his thing is service. But eventually she got on board. Not just as his wife, but as his constant companion on the trail, helping him stay grounded. I just said I give up. You have to do it. I guess. Because as she put it, it helps him to have a familiar face, someone he can count on. And if that doesn't sum up their relationship perfectly, we don't know what does.